Hello everyone and welcome to the coding branch. In today's video we get to mess around with some more CSS. I'm going to be walking you through the different types of selectors there are when using CSS, but before we get too far, I'll be starting this project with an HTML document that has two divs in it, one that says square and the other says circle. And this document is already connected to our empty CSS file. If you need a hand setting this up, you can either grab the code from the GitHub link in the description below, or you can check out both my Intro to HTML and Intro to CSS playlists on YouTube. The link for that will too be down below. Alright, now, let's get into it. We've already seen how we can use the tag selector to affect different types of elements. When styling an element like this div, we're going to use the tag name as our selector. That's great and all, but there becomes an issue when we want to style two of the same elements differently. That's why I have two divs in my document. As you can see, when I add a background color and a size to the div tag, they both scale. Now I'll go ahead and add a margin top and a border to separate them a little bit. But with this type of a setup, you have no control of them individually. If we try to throw a different style on a div, whatever code comes last will overwrite the previous code. This is why we need selectors that are unique to the element. And that's where classes come in. If we go back to our HTML, we can add a class attribute to each div. Now I'll go ahead and call them square and circle. When it comes to the classes, you can have a single class on multiple elements for ease of styling a large amount of elements at once. But we want these divs to have their own unique styling, so we'll name them differently. We can then go over to our CSS and call this class by using a period followed by the class name. We'll go ahead and add another background color, a different size, and to make it look a little more appealing, we'll center the text, then center the div, giving it a margin left and right of auto. As you can see, the changes we're making to this div isn't affecting the other one. And the keen-eyed amongst you would have strangely realized that though this class's styles are before the other code styling the div, it's taking effect over the later code. This is because the class selector overrides the tag selector. But any styles that were declared in the tag selector and not overwritten by the class selector will bleed through, like this white text and border. Alright, now I'll go ahead and style our circle. Again, we'll add a unique background color, a new size, and center everything. Though, to make it look like a circle, we're going to add a border radius of 100%. Now, you can see how the class selectors can be leveraged to make changes to an element's style. But, there's more. There's actually another selector, and it's called an ID. It's honestly used a lot less than a class, and the reason is because what makes it different than a class is that it has to be a unique name and you cannot reuse the same ID on multiple elements, meaning your element is uniquely styled, but that style cannot be shared. Since web development at its core is to learn how to build things at scale, we don't often have styles that aren't reusable. Though IDs do serve their purpose, and I'll show you how to use them. Let's go back to our HTML and add an ID attribute to the first div. We'll call it red. Then, to show off our class skills again, we'll add another one to the second div and we'll call it blue. You can add a second class by simply adding a space between the two of them. Now we'll go ahead and head back over to our CSS and make an ID that changes the background color to red and a class that changes the background color to blue. As you can see, an ID can be declared by having its name follow a pound sign or a hashtag, if you will. Both of these effects took place, but to make it a little cooler, we'll change these to hover effects. Now, only when we hover our mouse over them do they change color. A quick note is that an ID selector will override a class. A great example is if we go back and give our first div the blue class as well. The blue class comes in after the ID, but if we hover over the element, we can see the ID still changes the square red. I hope I didn't confuse you with all the class and divception, but it's honestly really important to understand what will override what, because it's easy to get lost in CSS and lose track of what's affecting your element. That being said, that about wraps it up for the CSS selectors. So if I missed anything, or if you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this type of shorthanded content, be sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe on your way out.